Well, we have talked about your mother's contributions to journalism and politics, but she was also a feminist with deep ties to the women's movement. And in our next video, shared by Tammy contributor Keller Barron, she appears alongside First Lady Rosalind Carter and Betty Friedan to rally support for the Equal Rights Amendment. Let's roll the clip.
The men are basically designed to lead. The women are designed as a help to the man.
Outside the convention hall, people demonstrated against the Equal Rights Amendment. ERA was one of the most emotional and hotly debated issues we faced. Here, in a meeting sponsored by ER America, we heard from those in favor of it, including First Lady Rosalind Carter.
In my view, our message from Houston to the women of our country must be short and simple. We should say to those who are wavering, to those who are ill-informed, to those who are confused because of shrill voices, we should say to them that when you think of the Equal Rights Amendment, think about yourself. Equal legal protection, equal legal opportunities are the basis of our democracy and of our quality of life. These rights are long overdue. Thank you very much.
Next, we heard from Betty Friedan.
My daughter said to me this summer, I'm not a feminist, I'm a person. And I said, well, good. But then I thought about it and I felt some pain and I felt some worry. And in these 16 cities, I've been talking to daughters like that in the law schools, getting the MBAs, in the medical school, that's where my daughter is. And I said, look, you think you're here because of your exceptional ability? You think you're here because of the largesse of IBM or of the medical school? You are here because we fought 15 years for equality. And now it's time for you to pay your dues.
So that footage comes from a 1978 television special about the National Women's Conference, which was the first and as yet only federally funded women's conference that was held in Houston in November 1977. And what was your mother's involvement with the conference?
Yeah, well, it was generated by Bella Abzug in Congress and with cooperation from the White House and Jimmy Carter, because it was International Women's Year, and the United States needed to have an activity, needed to do something to showcase women and their importance in America. And so my mother was appointed first by Gerald Ford and then reappointed by Carter to be on the commission, the American Commission for International Women's Year. So she was a commissioner along with Bella Abzug and Gloria Steinem and Maya Angelou. I mean, a wide spectrum of prominent women in America. And the goal of the conference was to develop recommendations for a national agenda for women. And it was a very big deal. No such gathering of women with such a mission had ever occurred and been funded by the U.S. government, as you mentioned. And my mother was front and center during this historic conference because she was a commissioner. Also, she was a well-known feminist. And she was drafted to give one of the opening speeches at the conference, and which I found a copy of in these boxes that I've combed through. And according to all the people that I've talked to that were there, and some of the news coverage of it, she had everybody on their feet, hooping and hollering and laughing during her remarks. So she played a big role, and she also staged, with the help of other people, a fundraising event for ERA America. And actually, I think that may be where that clip comes from. And same, is not officially part of the conference, but just off-site, taking advantage of all of the women that had from around the country who congregated in Houston. And she was co-chair of ERA America. So she played a very prominent role with regard to having all these first ladies. I mean, just imagine, all these first ladies endorsing together the ERA. I mean, it was quite something.
And she was involved with the conference, and then she was pretty involved with just the wider women's movement too.
Absolutely. I mean, she was one of the co-founders of the National Women's Political Caucus that had been founded earlier in the early 1970s, and she was out around the country campaigning for various women, for galvanizing women to be part of the caucus, to form state caucuses that could support and nurture candidates, to get more women to run for office. So she was very active with that as well. So over several decades, my mother was involved in leadership roles in the what is called the second wave of the women's movement.